Last spring at one of our cell evenings, we were praying with and for each other. One of the brothers at the cell, he believed he had a word from God for me, and it was, God's not done with you yet. Your story isn't over. The evening before I was brought to hospital, I called one of my prayer partners in South America. Just asked him to pray for me. I wasn't feeling well, but not extremely sick. And then he said, well, as I was praying for you, I received a word. That word was exactly the same as I had heard in spring. God's not done with you yet. Your story isn't over. Then the next day, I was brought to hospital via ambulance in order to stabilize my oxygen levels, which had become very low. They recommended the best chance of survival was to be intubated immediately.
Well, at first we were fairly hopeful because we didn't think he was that sick. I just assumed he would be there for a few days and he'd come home. He obviously just needed a little bit of oxygen, right? And for the first few days he was doing well. And then within, I think, 3 or 4 days, he started making a turn for the worst. And just every day, bad news. It was very hard. The girls and me at home, far away from him, it was difficult. A week after he was taken to hospital, the doctor called me that Saturday morning and just to say that Vern's condition was very critical and they didn't think he would make it through the weekend. And then on Sunday morning when they actually told us we should come and say goodbye, that was a hard day. We went to the hospital and through a glass wall we got to see him, and there was a chaplain in the room with Vern holding a phone so that we could talk to him. The Thursday before, I was praying and I was kind of at the end of my rope, and I just said to God, I don't want to say these words, but I'm going to pray them anyway. Thy will be done.
The turnaround for the better happened, and the doctors have said, you know, this is the end of the line, we need to say goodbye. And one of Christina's prayers was, you know, if you do decide to heal, make it in such an obvious way that he gets all the glory.
Yeah, so the Sunday, the doctor said Vern will never breathe on his own. Like, he just won't make it. And he gave Vern a 1% survival chance on the Sunday, and by Tuesday, he said 50-50.
As I started to wake up and regain consciousness, the first sensation I had, or first sensation I remember, is just a deep peace being present. And yet at the same time, I also remember there was a battle raging for my life. There was a spiritual battle raging, which I sensed very clearly. I knew I required prayer. I knew I needed people to pray. As I was able to follow the social media story that was going on that Christina kept updating, and I saw all these people that were praying for me and all the prayer groups, it brought me to tears so many times. A wonderfully powerful experience, but also incredibly humbling. How is it that there's so many people that would be praying for me? How am I worthy of this, which I am not? I'm no more worthy than any other person would be. There's been a number of times where it was, well, the earthly side of things are not good. The doctors said I would not survive. The doctor said if I would survive, I would not breathe on my own again. My lungs were too far damaged. And then this battle that was going on. Every step of the way it was, well, on this side the way it looks, this is the way it is. But God said, it is not. Those words have been spoken before already. God is not done with you yet. Your story is not done. So we experienced those moments very clearly.
I've always heard people talk about when they've gone through difficult things, you know, oh, the people's prayers carried me or whatever. I didn't understand what would that feel like, what is that like? But it was definitely just, you sensed that you weren't alone.
A huge amount of prayer support poured in. One of my favorite stories is, we heard of a youth group in China that were praying for us. We don't know anyone in China. A youth group in Paraguay saying, they had never experienced, answers to prayer in this way, and very strengthening for their faith to see how God was moving and answering so many prayers. We would like to thank everyone, especially in this church, that stood behind us in prayer. To know that we're part of a community that takes care of each other in such a wonderful way is a very encouraging and very wonderful thing to be a part of.
Just when I think back, to the day that we were at the hospital, say goodbye, the doctor exactly said, there is no other way. He's going to pass away. They just didn't see any medical way how Vern would make it. 3 weeks later, Vern walked out of that hospital on his own 2 feet. I'm just amazed at the power of God and what he can do. And he gets all the glory.